The following program contains graphic material, including offensive language. Viewer discretion is advised.
You talk about Joe Biden a lot. I understand. You think you're going to be running against him. I can see how you might get confused. But you're running for governor. You're running for governor. And I have a question for you. You're running for governor. Why don't you look in the eyes of the people of the state of Florida and say to them, if you're reelected, you will serve a full 4-year term as governor. Yes or no? Yes or no, Ron? Will you serve a full 4-year term if you're reelected governor of Florida? It's not a tough question. It's a fair question. He won't tell you.
Well, listen, I know that Charlie's interested in talking about 2024 and Joe Biden, but I just want to make things very, very clear. The only worn-out old donkey I'm looking to put out to pasture is Charlie Crist. I'm proud of our history. I don't want to teach kids to hate our country. I don't want to teach kids to hate each other.
Those who don't know history may be condemned to repeat it. Usually people use that in reference to the Holocaust. It could just as easily be referenced to slavery in our country.
Proud of the 15 weeks that we did. I know Charlie Crist opposes that, even though the baby is fully formed, has a heartbeat, can feel pain, and can suck their thumb.
I don't want to ban abortion. I want to make sure we keep a woman's right to choose available to the women of the state of Florida.
Are you ready?
Hey everybody, it's Jeff. How's everybody doing today? Hope everybody's doing good and having good weather. Today we're having good weather here in Maine. Actually, it started off kind of gloomy, but then the clouds broke up and now the sky's all blue and the sun's out and everything, and it's really nice out. So I thought I'd come down to the park here today to do this video because, you know, for the last 3 days I guess it's been kind of rainy and stuff, so and I think everybody else kind of has the same idea. Anyway, I don't know how many people watched the debate with DeSantis and what's his name there, I can't remember, but it was quite a barn burner. And the funny thing is DeSantis looked like his opponent didn't even exist. I mean, he was just standing there looking straight ahead, no expression on his face, and wouldn't respond to anything that, you know, was directed at him from his opponent. And he just would, you know, he looked like he was in a world all of his own. You know, it was a very strange look that he had on his face. Some people say he was high on something, but I don't know. He might have looked like he was, but that may be maybe he decided before the debate that he was just not going to acknowledge anything that the left had to say about anything. That he would just be up there and spout what he wants to do and what he believes in, and that would be his selling point. And the funny thing is that the audience didn't seem to want to go for that, because whenever he would talk about things that he wanted to do and stuff, a lot of people in the audience were just screaming at him, you know, calling him a liar and that he's no good and everything. And he would just stand there like he never heard any of that, you know. And I'm thinking, you know, this is the guy that they want to have come back for governor in Florida. I mean, Jesus. I mean, he's like a zombie. You know, he just has his ideas, and that's all that matters. Everything else goes straight to hell. You know, and a guy that don't engage in a debate the way he did is a man who has no confidence in what he has to do. He's just going to do it, and whether it works or not has no bearing on him personally. Okay, that's a person who isn't really confident at all. I mean, I don't care. He may not even be. Probably doesn't care about what he's going to do as governor. He's just going to spend the next time as governor, if he wins, doing pretty much the same thing that he's been doing, which is causing trouble. You know, and that. I don't think Florida really needs that again. I think they need to switch gears and try somebody different, because DeSantis hasn't won them any favorability points in that state, and a lot of people have just had it with him. I mean, insurance companies have fled from Florida in the recent years, and he's done nothing to stop that, because people down there are finding it very difficult to insure their homes and stuff. And then you got all these scammers running around in Florida, knocking on people's doors and, telling them, we'll fix your roof and all this shit and that, and then doing it and charging these people over the top there for these things. I mean, the things are going crazy down in Florida, and it's just not a place to live anymore. And with these hurricanes that they just happened, and people now want to try to, file claims. I mean, it's just a mess. It's just a mess, and this all under his watch. All of this under his watch, and I can't imagine why anybody would want to continue with this guy. I think he's been there long enough for people to formulate a good opinion about him, whether he's competent to be governor or not. And I think that last night's debate really showed that he really isn't competent at all. He's just a very arrogant piece of crap who has this extreme idealistic agenda, and he wants to be like Trump. He wants to outdo Trump in a lot of ways, and that's going to be very dangerous right now for Florida, which is on shaky ground, basically. Okay. But during the debate, it made me think about all the talking points that were brought up, and I was thinking about how very little there was about anything that was addressed by the right wing about what kind of solutions they had. But they sure as hell had a lot of things to attack. Okay, and I made sort of a list here of things that they brought up that they don't like. The first thing is, it was obvious during the Trump years that they hated the CDC. Okay. They didn't like the idea of the CDC telling people to wear a mask, to take shots, and all this shit. They were all against that, okay? All against that. And they had the people on the right wing all lined up complaining about having to get protection so they wouldn't get sick. And how many millions of Americans died under Donald Trump, and how many thousands died under DeSantis in Florida because of that? These two guys here could have shaved half that number down if they would have just went with the CDC's recommendations on how to fight COVID-19, and lots of people would still be alive today if they supported it and got the Republicans to go along with it. Because let's face it, it was because of these two guys that the Republican voters were not protecting themselves. They put all their faith in Trump and DeSantis on them being right, and they weren't. They just weren't, and the proof is in the pudding, folks. Another thing is critical race theory. That was a big thing for this year that they bitched about. It was an issue that really is not a problem in this country, because what they were accusing people of did not exist, which is K through 12 schools teaching this in their classes, which it can't be possible. It's not possible unless all the kids are super geniuses. None of the kids were ever exposed to CRT in their education, because that is a graduate level course that a person takes if they want to be a lawyer. Okay. and it deals a lot with historical facts that deal with, law and stuff like that. And it's an obvious course one would need to take. So they didn't like that. Why they pulled that out of the air and decided to make that an issue, I don't know. They must have, the Heritage Foundation must be out there thinking about what other issue can we create today that we can get Republicans to talk about that'll get everybody's attention, and then and then bitching about it. Okay, I think that's all they do. They don't look for existing problems. They try to fantasize about problems that aren't there. Okay, and whether they exist or not doesn't matter to a lot of voters. They just assume that it's there, otherwise they wouldn't be talking about it. So a lot of people in this country still think that politicians, by and large, are honest people. Go figure. Okay, the other thing that, Republicans were attacking this year were, Mexicans and anyone really Latino, race people, that, because it's all, like with the illegal immigration and stuff like that, that created the animosity towards the Mexican Americans and the Latino Americans in this country, which led to more attacks against illegal immigrants coming into America, and that created that big mess there where you had DeSantis and Governor Abbott down in Texas flying people to Martha's Vineyard and other places, trying to dump these people off on the doorsteps of Democrats to show the rest of America that, hey, even Democrats don't like these people. And they found out, no, that's not true, because these people showed up and they were greeted by all kinds of people, welcomed into their states and everything. But when those immigrants were told what had happened to them, they got pissed. Okay, when they realized that the generosity from DeSantis and the governor of Texas wasn't real, and they found out they were being used as political pawns, they were mad. Okay, let me tell you, they were fucking mad. And all I got to say is they need to tell anyone else in Mexico that if you come into this country, they too could be used as political pawns by the right wing and treated like garbage. Okay, so coming to America with Republicans in the center seat, forget it. Okay, you're not going to be. They don't want you here. They don't want you here. Period. You're better off to try to get into this country and land on the doorstep of Democrat states instead, because at least that way you'd get a fair shake. But you're not going to get that with Republicans. They don't believe in fair shakes. If they don't like your skin color, they'll do everything they can to bar you from getting into this country. LGBTQ community, I mean, that's been ongoing here for quite a while. They don't much approve of the way these people live their lives and their sexual lives. Okay, and we hear how the modern day Republican voter attacks people, lesbians and gay people, when they're up there trying to tell people, stop picking on me, I'm a person like you. And all of a sudden they're shouted at saying, well, you need to stop indoctrinating our kids. Immediately they go on the offensive, okay, thinking that these gay and lesbian people have an agenda to make everybody else like them. Okay, it's not, these stupid Republicans don't understand that it's not a conscious decision. People don't decide to be these ways because they just said, okay, today I'm going to be gay. No, it's something that happens way before that. Okay, wherever they get this idea that a kid or whatever can be talked into this is ridiculous. Okay, the person would know, it wouldn't feel right if they were doing such a thing. Okay. And the last thing people need in this country is confusion about this issue. These people need to be left alone so that they can make the choice that's right for them. We don't need to have these Bible pounders out there spouting their religious dogma at everybody and accusing little kids and stuff of being part of a big conspiracy of an agenda that they're trying to turn the entire world into, you know, a gay and lesbian world, okay? I mean, I don't know why the hell these people think the way they do, but the right wing is very good at not only convincing themselves of bullshit, but of dragging other people into their belief at the same time. You know, because a lot of them sound convincing while many others don't, but the ones that sound convincing get all the airtime and all the attention because they do a better job at convincing folks that, you know, what they think is right. So they do that. Abortions. Obviously, they don't like abortions. That goes right along with the religious thinking. Teachers, they attack teachers because they think teachers are indoctrinating kids again into liberal thoughts. Okay. For some reason, they equate liberalism equals sin. Ignoring the fact that Republicans also equal sin because a lot of them have done plenty of sinful things in their past, all of which is based on greed. Okay, they've destroyed families, they've destroyed communities, and wrecked the economy of the whole nation because of personal greed and protecting greedy people from getting punished for doing things that ruin other people's lives, so that way they can continue to be greedy. Isn't that a sin? You know, for some reason Republicans seem to let that go over their head. They don't seem to think there's anything wrong with that, you know. And I can't imagine why, because a lot of Republicans that I know are poor as hell, and yet they accuse Democrats of everything that they say is causing them to stay poor. And I can't, that's so laughable, I can't even imagine how these people can even sleep at night believing this shit. I mean, it's just crazy. They attack people that want gun control, obviously. They hate the idea that folks want to try to reduce the gun crime rate in this country, which is astronomical. And, you know, they think that any attempt at trying to get guns out of certain people's hands is an attack on the Second Amendment. It's ludicrous, okay? It's just, you know, people trying to do good things, they turn that into something bad, you know? Why would somebody want to take away guns after you hear about a massacre like that? Do they really think that Democrats take advantage of those opportunities to try and take away your guns? No, we respond to those crises when they happen by saying, well, we can stop this from happening again if you do this. And you know, that's the thing. They twist the intentions of the Democrat Party to fit their narrative. And of course, once you brainwash these people to a point, that narrative becomes very easy for them to lock into place as fact, okay? They attack the voters. I mean, look, we have Republicans redistricting their damn communities so that way they can draw in more Republican votes into their elections, okay? And fade away more Democrat votes, okay? That way they're not as prominent in the elections, okay? So they don't like voters. They treat them like cattle, I guess, for the most part. I mean, they got in Nevada, or is it, yeah, Nevada or Arizona, I can't remember which one. Carrie Lake, I mean, in her state, they got bullies at the fucking polls, armed, okay, standing there watching voters going in there, okay? Bullies now. They got people standing there, you know, and I'm thinking, you know, this is the way Republicans want to do their fucking election. They want to keep people away from the polls that they probably figure are Democrat, and they just, you know, how is it that the police can't get involved in removing these folks from where they are? I mean, how is that not possible? If you see somebody standing there that doesn't look like a cop, but he's just standing there with a weapon, and get on the fucking phone, call 911 and tell them, look, you people need to get the cops over here and remove this cocksucker because he's going to cause trouble here. You know, why isn't it people never do that? I just don't get it. So Republicans, they don't like the whole concept of an election. They would rather that just a certain few people pick who they want and that's it. They don't trust the populace to select the right people for power in this country. Okay, they just don't, because they figure voters don't know anything, so why should we let them vote? Well, too bad. That's in the Constitution. This is, government by the people, for the people. Okay. They attack healthcare and all aspects of it. Okay, they don't like Americans getting healthcare or aid for it by the government. Okay, they certainly don't like it when people, are trying to get, like coverage under Social Security or something like that or Medicare or Medicaid, and to cover certain things that they need to have taken care of, like surgeries and something, and they select which things they want to cover. Okay, so it comes with a price. It comes with a cost to the person that uses it. That we're not just going to hand you this for every conceivable problem. It's going to have to cover under these certain things, and a lot of these things that they won't cover are critical things. Things related to cancer treatment and stuff like that. They won't deal with that. And so, Republicans are always on the lookout for trying to find ways to cut that. They certainly want to raid the Social Security, what's with the word Al Gore used, a lockbox. Okay, they want to pick that lockbox open and run with all the cash in it. Okay, that really isn't theirs to begin with. It's ours. It's for people who worked, paid into that tax system where that money went into Social Security, and they're due to get that money back at retirement. Okay, but they're not going to get the full money back from what they paid into it, thanks to legislation that was passed under Ronald Reagan, I think. And it was just they're only going to get like 80% of what they paid into the system back, as opposed to the full amount. And now they're saying that they're predicting that by 2035, 2040, the Social Security system is going to be very short on money to give back out to the populace because of declining numbers of people working, because you had the baby boomers, which came through and took a lot of the Social Security money, and now there isn't a whole lot more going back in to replace it. And so they're predicting that the Social Security will have to cut recipients again by cutting maybe another 30% for people to get back out of it, in order to make sure that there's money still in the system to give to everybody. So instead of talking about getting rid of the system, which we know everyone is going to need still in years to come, they need to be talking about expanding it or improving on it to get people to pay more into it, because it's needed. I mean, we don't want to see our elderly go back to the days where they would work till they dropped out on the fucking plows. Okay, that went on during the 1930s and shit like that, and into the 40s. But people need to be treated better than that. Okay, we're not a slave labor country here, and you start treating white people and black people and Latino people and Chinese, whatever. You start treating people like this, and they're all going to feel like they're slaves. Working till they're so old, to be able to feed themselves, that they drop. I mean, how do you think that's going to make you feel when you work like that and you can't stop because you don't have any retirement? Okay, and you're working minimum wage most of your life, which means you're not going to get a whole lot of return. So how do you think that's going to make all these people feel at the end of the day when they reach their twilight years, or whatever you want to call it, and they're still working 9 to 5 jobs, if their health is holding up? I mean, if their health doesn't hold up, then what happens to these poor people? I mean, they're going to get tossed aside into the gutter, So, look, Social Security, it was a great idea at its conception. It's still a great idea today, and we need to protect it and make sure that it remains strong for decades to come. We certainly don't need to hear from people like DeSantis and Trump or whoever saying that Social Security is wrong, it was always wrong, and we need to get rid of it. only so that way they can take that money and give it to their fucking corporate buddies, okay, which is what they're aiming to do. So that's pretty much the list there for what Republicans don't like an attack. And that's a good spot here to go to a commercial break, so I'll be right back after these messages.
This is me.
This is me.
This is me!
This is me.
I'm Alex Curtis. I'm a lobsterman in Maine, and this is me.
I'm Ruth McLaughlin, and this is me.
I'm Eric Hopkins. I'm an artist, and this is me.
This is me.
Me.
This is me.
This is me.
This is me.
At the end of the journey, the main thing is you. Original.
Marco Rubio wants you to think crime is a top issue in this election. So why does he spend so much time defending Donald Trump, who is at the center of 19 pending criminal and civil cases? From tax fraud to stealing classified documents to trying to violently overthrow an election, Rubio backs Trump, not law and order. He attacks the FBI and law enforcement. So much for backing the blue. That's why in the U.S. Senate, Val Demings will be everything Marco Rubio isn't. Hardworking, smart, effective, brave, and strong enough to speak out in the face of injustice. Val's record of service, bravery, and putting her life on the line for a safer Florida has always come down to doing the right thing. Val Demings fights criminals. Marco Rubio defends them.
Imagine how many lives could have been saved if Ron DeSantis had spent enough time in the weeks before hurricane season preparing Southwest Florida. Instead of spending time and money trafficking Venezuelan migrants and trolling the news media. Imagine.
The Lincoln Project paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it. It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
Okay, now on the flip side of, you know, what I just talked about in the previous segment, I wanted to talk about the things that Democrats have accomplished in just this last year and a half, okay, under Joe Biden. And believe me, the list is extensive, okay? So when we couple this and compare it to what Republicans want to destroy, let's remind ourselves, I guess, pretty much of what was already accomplished here under Biden, even though he didn't have the majority in the Senate to be able to do these things, but he managed to get it done anyway, with sometimes a handful of Republican support. Okay, but here's the first thing here, which was important, was the Inflation Reduction Act. Okay, and that addressed the deficit. Okay, it paid on the deficit, and inside that act, they had action taken for climate change. Corporations had to pay a higher percentage into taxes, their fair share, as it were, which they haven't for a long time. Okay, they haven't for a long time. So that meant they had to kind of, you know, rewrite the tax code, I guess, for big business in this country, so that way they have to pay more. They lowered the health care costs for millions of Americans, which is good, okay, because, you know, like I said in the previous segment, that's a big problem for a lot of Americans, is they can't get the right health care when they need it, you know, for certain ailments that they have, okay. You know, they don't want to cover big expenditures. And they got Medicare the ability to be able to negotiate for drug prices for the first time in history. Okay, which was a big thing that people wanted, you know, because the drug prices in this country are outrageous. Okay, so some of the pills that I take and stuff, I looked it up online one day to see what they cost on the market, and for Americans, it's like in the hundreds of dollars. Okay, I'd be paying over $1,000 a month on all the medications that I'm taking, and that's ridiculous. Okay, that's more than I could even afford to pay with all the benefits that I get. Okay, but the VA center is reduced to having to give out the generic forms of these medicines that I get because it's cheaper for them. You know. But it's crazy, and I don't think that's right that people have to pay through the fucking nose. Other countries don't have to, so why do we have to shoulder the burden for big pharma? Okay, why does the United States have to support the rest of the world for big pharma? I mean, shouldn't these other countries fend for themselves? I mean, if they're gonna, you know, if they want medications and stuff, I mean, shouldn't we all be paying an equal price here across the board? You know, what's the problem there? So we now have 13 million Americans are covered under Obamacare now, with their premiums reduced up to $800. Okay, and that's pretty good. So there's more people covered under it, which Republicans said that would never work, that it's going to fall apart and everything. They didn't want to give it a chance, but it's helping people, and you know, it's improving as it goes. And you know, like anything that you create for the first time, we all lived through the Obama years. Okay, so when it was introduced and started, the Republicans had nothing but crap to say about it, that it was gonna, you know, it was no good, it wasn't gonna work, and you know, and yada yada yada. Okay, and yeah, it did have a rocky start, but they smoothed it out over time, and it's working better now than it did when it started. They just have to, you gotta get, in order to make something streamlined and more efficient, you gotta get it rolling and see what happens as it's rolling. Okay, when you see the problems coming up, that's when you start to make the corrective measures. Okay, you can't know when something isn't perfect until you get it out there on the fucking water, you know, and to see where the leaks are coming in. Okay, you got to know. Otherwise, it's all theory, right? I mean, you can't really make anything happen if it's just on paper and you can't get it enacted in some way. Okay, so they also improved health care for veterans in the VA system, that now includes people exposed to toxic things, toxic trash or whatever thing, you know, because a lot of veterans were coming back from from the Middle East, in Afghanistan, because they were exposed to burn pits, and a lot of stuff people were burning in those things gave off fumes that were, just hovering over the goddamn camps that these people were sleeping in, and now they all come home sicker than hell, and I'm saying good, because that means that the military is going to have to take better accountability of what they're doing when they do it. Never to just throw caution to the wind and do something, because it's more expedient, okay? If you can't find a way to get rid of your garbage than to burn it, then you shouldn't be bringing shit over there that's going to end up being garbage, okay? You've got to find a better way to dispose of that stuff and not pollute the environment at the same time, okay? Yeah, it means costing more to make them do that, but at the end of the day, guess what happens? You're not going to have many veterans coming home sick as they are, where it's going to cost us even more to take care of them when their surgeries are getting in there, when they come down with cancer and they need cancer treatment. Believe me, all of that total is going to be way more costly than having to deal with the trash we leave behind, at these places. Okay. So we had the CHIPS and Science Act, which led to the beginning of some factories being built to build microchips and what the hell were those things? Tubes or something. What kind of tubes there are. For technology, okay? And what drove that was the cost of shipping stuff from China into the United States to use, because of shipping prices being as high as they are. It was costing, the buck was being passed to the consumer, making everything so incredibly expensive. So, it got to the point where people said, well, look, it's going to be easier on the economy and the consumer if we start building these things right here at home. Okay, so that led to, them beginning to build new factories, and that will create new jobs, it'll lower costs of goods and things like that, and it'll take care of our national security at the same time, because, it's being built right here in the United States, and we don't have to worry about, where we was getting stuff from China. We were exposing ourselves to, our technologies being inhibited by Chinese manufacturers and stuff like that, which would have caused, a lot of problems here in this country should things get worse. And so we by deciding to build those kind of things here at home, it makes it safer for us to have that, our computers and our phones and our whatever. And so that was needed, because we do need higher paying jobs, and this certainly would bring higher paying jobs into America by bringing factories here. And so then they also did some action on the gun violence problem, which was okay. It was action, okay, not the kind of action that a lot of us wanted, but what they've done is for people over the age of 21, background checks are going to become more extensive now. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but all I know was that for the first time in 30 years in this country, something was done about the gun violence problem. So the last time they did anything about it was 30 years ago. So that says a lot right there about how much this country really wants to do anything about gun violence. All right. So we've got to give credit there to the Biden administration for at least taking that little baby step there. And of course, during the fight with Russia and Ukraine, Biden managed to unite the world to make a stand against Russia and help out Ukraine. Yeah, it brought world tensions up, but at the same time, having us help out Ukraine is giving Ukraine a lot of ability to push back, to the point where they've got the Russians on the run in a lot of areas, and their back is to the wall. And now, Putin is getting pissed off, and because he's losing this thing, and he's losing a lot of his military assets, and he's talking talking shit, threatening the nuclear bombs and everything, and he's getting everyone's hair on fire, basically. At the same time, we're finding out about, how his military has been conducting this war, which is, a disgrace, by killing children, raping women, stealing, vandalizing, just for the pleasure of it, shooting people at random. I mean, these people it's like they're just, it's worse than guerrilla warfare. I mean, these people are out there basically just, shooting like they're going on a hunting season, with paintballs or something. I mean, these people are just crazy. The soldiers have gone crazy with this war over there, and they don't care. Anybody that dies, they leave them right there where they die, and they just move on. They let the body rot right out in the open. I mean, these people are like savages, okay? Of course, every war is bloody and savage in its own way, but when you watch these Russians and hear what they're doing to civilians and people who are not armed, okay, that's a dishonorable way of doing things, okay? A person of that does that has no character, no moral character at all, okay? Biden ended the war in Afghanistan. It was like 20 years of war. He finally ended that. He did that on his first, one of his first things as president. Even though the Republicans didn't like it for whatever reason, because, we lost 7 or 11 people in the process, that's a whole lot better than the thousands that we lost in the 20 years total in the Afghanistan war, which was okay to them, Republicans, but it wasn't okay to lose a handful of people in the process of getting our troops home. Okay. But he ended the war there and, saved this country a lot more body bags and a lot more expense in that fight, because we really weren't getting anywhere. I mean, the generals are pretty much saying we were just spinning our tires in the mud at this point, looking for these people, and we really shouldn't have been there in the first place, because 9/11 did not happen because of what they think Saddam Hussein and all them did, okay? The problem was always in Afghanistan, but we never put our full foot into that country until, much later. And then at that point, it was becoming like, hide and seek for the most part. And, it was spending a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of rebels, a lot of, whatever the hell you want to call it, that we were fighting over there. And it wasn't getting us anywhere, okay? And any veteran that came home from that will tell you, it was just, it's just a needlessly prolonged conflict, okay? And even they felt like there was people making money off of this damn thing by continuing this, military action over there in Afghanistan. So it needed to end. It needed to end bad. It was costing us a lot. They reauthorized the Violence Against Women Act and expanded its legal services. And through that they ended the forced arbitration on sexual assault. And that was something that you heard once in a while, that people that for women's services and stuff that were raped and all that, how much of an uphill battle it is to get justice for these people. And so Biden helped to streamline that a bit better, so it works more efficiently, I guess. And that was good for them to get that done. That's something Republicans never would have even bothered with. Then he passed the American Rescue Plan, which helped us to fight COVID-19. It put $1.9 trillion into getting people their shots, getting masks out there, getting these stuff you take at home there to check to see if you got COVID, those home test kits, so they got that going. And along with that, they had those checks they would give out for people to help them, home assistance, renters assistance. that a lot of people needed them because they were out of work for a lot of people, and they needed it to, to help them get through month after month and stuff like that. So, a lot of there was 160 million checks that were sent out to people across the country for various amounts. Okay, and they had, of course, the child assistant checks that were the tax credit rather, that they were getting this money. So if you had any children, you'd get extra for the children and stuff like that. It wasn't as much as they wanted. I think they originally wanted $4 trillion, but the Republicans only would let them have 1.9. Like, why not just round it up to 2? What's the 0.9? But at any rate, out of that $1.9 trillion that was spent, we've already paid half of that back in just this year alone because of all the investment that Biden had put into America. Okay, by creating all those new jobs and stuff, and helping people along during the pandemic when things were closed, so that the way they came back to work, when things felt safe enough to go back to work, people started going back to work, and they've already paid half of this back already. So that's a big step in showing the Republicans that, look, the number 1.9 trillion might have sounded big to a lot of Americans, but they don't take into account how much money the government gets every year in taxes, okay, in revenue. So that $1.9 trillion at the end of the day is more like, it's not really that much if you think about it, which is what they were arguing for. The reason why they were arguing to begin with is that 1.9 trillion isn't going to come close enough to helping this country. We need 4, okay? And there's like, no, that's way too much. And of course, the average asshole out there has never seen $1 trillion in their life, and it's a big fucking figure. Of course they're going to think that it's impossible to pay that down. But Biden just showed us this year that when you invest in America, you get back tenfold. Okay, when you put money into America to keep it going, it's going to come back, quicker than it went out. And that's the proof right there. Half of it's already been paid out of that 1.9 trillion. So there you go. If we get, another term with Obama, we might have the whole thing paid off by the time he's done his second term. I mean, wouldn't you want that? I mean, that's definitely going to help the economy if you get that bill paid off. He added almost 7 million jobs in just 1 year in this country. Now, I've said before in previous videos that the jobs he added weren't all good paying jobs. Some of them were just regular minimum wage jobs, even part-time jobs, okay? And they include that amount, those numbers in the figure. But yes, he did create all these jobs, okay? But looking around, you can still see a lot of job offers being put out there on the road, signs telling we need to hire more people. So there's jobs out there that are still not taken, but jobs are created. More people are working more than one job, okay, which it probably factors into their number as well. So more people are working more jobs, but they're working for the same amount of money they were making when they was working one job. So they're working twice as hard for the same amount of money. You want to call that a success? Fine. Personally, I think that's not fair to say that, we have job growth when people are working like that in this country. We laughed at that lady when George Bush Jr. there was running for president, and this old lady stood up and told him while he was on the stage that she worked 3 jobs. And he looked at her and said, when do you find time to sleep? And everybody laughed in the audience. And then he says, well, she's uniquely American. And I was thinking how the audience back then thought that was ridiculous, that this woman had to work that many jobs to make ends meet. And today, now, it's like it's commonplace now. People don't seem to think there's anything wrong with that. You got one person that works part-time here, part-time there, part-time. I mean, that's not right. Why should people work all those jobs, okay, to get the same amount of money they could have got if they worked minimum wage at one job for 8 hours? And the reason why these companies do that is so that way they don't have to give them health benefits. You know, they make them work all that, and even after they have all these jobs, they still don't get the health benefits from any one of these jobs. So you tell me, is that fair or not? Repairs started over 65,000 miles of road in this country, road work, and they started working on 1,500 bridges in this country to get them up to par. I'm wondering if they're including the bridge in Old Town Orono, where they have the money, but they're sitting on their thumbs because they think it's too expensive to fix the bridge. And what they've done is they put signs up saying 30-ton limit on the bridge, on both ends of the bridge. So are these bridges being worked on, or are they scheduled to be worked on at some time in the future? I don't know. The road work, I believe, is happening because all over Bangor, Christ, you can't get anywhere in this town without cones in the way. So they've been working like ants here in this town, fixing roads all over the place. Problem is it ain't gonna last, because the first winter we get and the plows start plowing, they're gonna start digging up all the road they just put down. So what they'll do is they'll just they'll say, yeah, we did the road work and everything. I don't know how long it'll last, but you know, if you don't invest in your infrastructure in the country, it'll quickly run away with you. Okay, things will start to deteriorate faster than you can imagine. You know, imagine if they stopped sweeping the sand off the roads in Las Vegas for just 3-4 months. It'll look like the desert just came right back over that and buried everything. I mean, it's a constant thing that has to be done, you know, and a lot of towns have been underfunded and not able to take care of it as needed because they didn't have the money, or they don't have enough money to do it. So Biden put money out there for places to fix their roads up, because they need to be drivable. You know, we depend so much on our trucks and stuff delivering goods. And somebody had said to me, and I laughed at first, but then I thought about it. You know, that would have been a good idea. How many trains actually dock at a mall to unload goods? You ever wonder that? I mean, we have a railway system, but yet where the goods need to go, you know, you don't see the trains there to deliver that stuff forthwith. They got to have a medium there to do the rest of it. If they could cut that middleman out, it could save money there on delivery, wouldn't it? And just imagine how many those carts they pull, you know, those cars. They could bring a whole, like a year's worth of supplies for a store in just one train load. You know, think of how much cheaper that would make prices for things, goods and stuff like that. Okay, so that's everything that I wanted to talk about for today. So I hope everybody takes the time to keep yourself informed about COVID-19 and the monkeypox. Okay, and please subscribe and comment so I can get your take on things that I talk about, and opinions. Or if you have any ideas you'd like to hear me talk about, you know, I'd like to entertain people's requests. And please treat each other nice. And let's have less fighting. So take